Yourself set to make a backhanded play.
Yeah.
This ball's hit a long way to straightaway center field, and how about that? Kyle Farmer. October, you never know. And that one is launched by Farmer. Big-time home run by Farmer. And here's a drive off the bat of Kyle Farmer. Goodbye.
Welcome back to Baseball Quotin. I'm Corey. I'm joined by Cincinnati Reds infielder, utility man Kyle Farmer. Kyle, thanks for taking the time out today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
First of all, congrats. I know you just made the opening day roster for the Reds. I know they got you working out both shortstop and catcher. What do you kind of find challenging in kind of both of those roles? I know you were a shortstop in college.
Yeah, I was a shortstop my whole life. Got drafted by the Dodgers as a catcher, never caught before, so that was a kind of a shock to me and a shock to the body and to the mind. So I had to learn how to catch for the Dodgers, which was good. They had a good coaching staff. But, coming in and playing shortstop and catcher, two big leadership roles, I guess. But I enjoy the challenge, and I think the biggest challenge will be, taking care of the body and kind of using my time to, create a scouting report as a catcher and then focusing on the scouting report as a shortstop too. So that's mainly the difficult part about it. But physical side, that's just the fun about the game. But in the behind the scenes is the tough part.
Yeah, I can only imagine it's probably, double the amount of work, not only, physically, both in practice and toll on your body, but kind of mentally. You got to prepare for, two of the quote unquote leadership positions in the kind of infield.
Yeah, for sure. That's the toughest part. When the lights turn on, that's when you're supposed to have the most fun. And if you're fully prepared, then there's nothing to worry about. But that's the toughest part is getting prepared.
Did you find it initially difficult to start learning how to catch when the Dodgers kind of converted you?
Yeah, it was pretty difficult. My body wasn't prepared for it. Flexibility. I had never really worked on my mobility and my hips as a shortstop. It just kind of came naturally to me. But then I found out that, having to squat behind a plate for 9 innings, your hips are going to take a toll. And so I learned pretty quickly how to create mobility in my hips and get down to a position that's comfortable for me. But that was a long process. I remember Ogden, Utah, when I first got drafted, I went there and Damon Berryhill was my manager, who was a longtime catcher for the Braves and in the big leagues for a while. And I walk in the first day and I'm hitting third and catching. I was like, I've never done this before. He's like, well, go out and see what you got. And so I did it. And I woke up the next morning. I kind of regretted never wanting to catch, but my body was so sore. But it paid off, and it's still a work in progress.
Now, I know kind of the Reds are, I wouldn't say pioneers in kind of the utility role, but they got, you doing shortstop and catch, and they also got your teammate Lorenzen, center field pitcher and DH. Is there kind of mentality against the Reds organization, hey, if you think you can do it, we'll give you a shot, and if it pays off, we'll let it happen?
Yeah, I mean, David Bell, our manager, is very open to anything, and he's open to versatility because he was a versatile player when he played. And so I think that the more positions you play, the better you give the team to give you an option to play and help out the team. So I think that, David has a very open mind about using guys in different positions to create a winning mentality. And I think that's become part of the Reds mentality as also around the league too. The more positions you can play, the better. I mean, you look at the Dodgers. Dodgers have guys like Chris Taylor, Kike Hernandez, Cody Bellinger. All those guys are playing multiple positions. And so I think it's starting to become around the league, if you're athletic enough to do it, then we should do it.
You guys brought in Castellanos and Moustakas this year. How do you think, those big bats are going to impact your lineup?
The bats are going to help, but I think the leadership they bring to the table is going to help even more. You can already tell a difference in the locker room with Moustakas and Nick. Just being in there and getting there, knowing their routine and getting in there and getting down to business. And so they bring a winning mentality. But their bats, it sounds differently off the bat, obviously. And it's fun to listen to them talk about hitting. And I've learned a lot since my short time with them. And so I'm looking forward to seeing them play every day and get some knocks.
Yeah. And for you entering the fourth year all in the National League, you've kind of been used to the the pitchers hitting the old school approach.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's kind of flipped for the first time this year. What's, I guess, the strategy? You don't have to give away too much information here, but what's the strategy for National League Club behind implementing a DH for the first time?
Well, I was kind of upset about it to begin with because that kind of cuts down on my at-bats because, the double switches in the National League and hitting for the pitcher and coming in late innings. But, I think that the matchup role is going to play huge as well this year. They're going to bring in a lefty. You'll see a lot more right-handed batters switching because now there's 30 guys on the roster. So I think, some teams are going to have 15 and 15. Maybe 14 and 16, position players or pitchers either way. So I think the more guys on the bench, the more opportunities will come to play those matchup roles. And it'll be interesting to see how David manages a game through this new DH rule. And I think we'll get a taste of it the first week and see how it goes.
Yeah, I guess you're more like the old school approach. You like the whole kind of, pitcher. Obviously it helps you get at bats, but just kind of in a purist sense.
Yeah, it's a chess match. I think the DH kind of takes away from the in-game strategies of a manager, and you can really tell the difference between an AL manager and an NL manager, I believe, because an NL manager manages the game from the first inning through the ninth inning, whereas an AL manager is kind of like, he plays the matchup roles, but all he has to do is really manage the bullpen at the time. Because you look at like Tampa Bay. Like their manager managed their bullpen like crazy. He does such a great job managing their bullpen. But I think it's going to be a huge difference, but we'll see how it goes.
Kind of piggybacking off of that a little bit, the kind of no fans in the stands for this season. Is that, you guys have played a bunch of inter-squad games, but how's the general feel from a player's perspective on that?
Our first exhibition against the Tigers, I was actually sitting in the stands, and that was very, very interesting to have a mask on and sitting in the stands, and we're right behind our guy on deck, and you want to talk to him so bad and just talk to him, but he's on your team, and you got to let him focus, so it's kind of awkward. But they pumped in some crowd noise, which is pretty cool. You don't really – when you're out there on the field, again, like these past two exhibition games with the Tigers – I haven't really noticed that there weren't any fans in the stands. I think that when you're so locked into the game, you kind of forget about them. But, it does bring an excitement to the game and the adrenaline rush when you do see fans in the stands. And it's also, you see a swaying momentum too when the fans get back into it and get loud and stuff. And so I'll give you a perfect example. I think we were playing when I was on the Dodgers, we were playing the Braves, and I think in the NLDS in 18, and I think Walker Buehler was pitching it. And growing up in Atlanta, I was a huge Braves fan, and they started doing the tomahawk chop and getting really, really loud, and Buehler started walking. I was like, dang, these fans are really getting into him. And then he gave up that home run to Acuna, take the lead, and it was bizarre how loud that stadium got. And it's kind of sad you won't be able to hear that now this year, but hopefully next year you will. But I think having no fans will affect some guys, and sometimes it won't either.
Yeah, something I'm always curious about, kind of defensively, if you're out there short first or second, is it easier to see the ball off the bat because you kind of just have that monochromatic backdrop?
Yeah, that's a good question. Depends on the color of the seats, honestly. I know that here at Great American Ballpark, they're red, so you can easily see the ball. But like at a place like Dodger Stadium, the seats are yellow, and they had to cover up the seats behind home plate so the infielders could see the ball off the bat. But I think it just depends on the color of your seats. Most stadiums have either like green or red, or some guys have navy blue. So the darker the color, the better to see the ball. But if you have a bright color back there, like if it was just like the old school benches, like the silver benches, then it would not be good.
Those are always tough growing up, but
the sun shining on them, that reflection, is terrible.
Can only imagine a major league player coming up and just absolutely getting a hold of one coming right at you. You see it like halfway.
It comes at you fast.
Kind of switching gears a little bit to your actorial debut in The Blindside.
Yeah.
So you played the quarterback for that scene where I guess Sandra Bullock kind of came in and took control of Mike. How did that whole I guess, event transpire? Is that your entire high school team? Or
Well, I played football throughout my whole – since I was probably 8, I played football all the way to my senior year of high school. And I played quarterback at Marist in Atlanta. But I always hung out with guys that went to Westminster, and that's where the movie was filmed.
Okay.
And so that was most of my friends' summer job, was being extras in the movie. And my buddy called me one night and said, "Hey, we need a quarterback for a day. Can you come out?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure. I'd love to do it." He's like, "All right, be here at 5:30 in the morning." I was like, "Holy crap. All right." So I show up, they give me pads, they give me a playbook, they give me a script. I had to learn whatever. And at the time I was going to the University of Georgia. It was my summer going into college where I couldn't really accept any money because of the NCAA rules. So I didn't accept any money for the movie. And they knew that. Except my mom didn't know that. They knew that. And so we were in the middle of a scene. I think it was a scene where there was a practice scene where Michael Orr was learning how to protect the quarterback's blind side, where he's like looking at the balloons, where he's looking up. And so all of a sudden, like, the director says, "Stop" or "cut." And I look over, my mom is like running down the hill saying, "Stop the movie." He can't get, she got up to like the director, the producer and everything, saying, "My son can't get paid." I have the head coach at Georgia on the phone. And I was like, oh my God. And you got Sandra Bullock over there underneath an umbrella, just kind of waiting to do her scenes. And my mom is running down, interrupting a huge production. And it was just embarrassing. But, you know, I was in the scene where he was learning how to protect the quarterback's blind side. And I kept getting drilled and drilled and drilled in the back. And so I finally had enough of it, and I started rolling out and avoiding the hit. And the director's like, "Listen, you got to get hit." I was like, "I'm done getting hit. This is not happening." And so they had to cut out that scene because they didn't get a good clip of it. And so, but I got a lot of respect for those people who do the movies, because they're there from sun up to sundown just because of the lighting. And there's so many different angles they have to get. And it's pretty wild seeing a production of a movie. And I mean, I'd do it again, but hopefully just not get hit from behind.
I mean, that's got to be the worst feeling. You just know that someone's coming at you, and you got to play it off like.
Yeah, it's like you're just waiting just to get drilled in the back, and hopefully he doesn't hit you too hard.
And that was like legit, like, high school team. Those weren't actors?
There were some that were like inspiring actors, and it was kind of funny because they were going around and asking for to put gel in their hair so the helmet slides on and off easier. And I was like, oh my gosh, you guys have definitely never played football before. This is not realistic. But some guys were playing football. Like, there's a scene where Michael Orr was getting, like, all the college coaches were at practice, and he was going one-on-one with this kid. And I actually played against him. He went to Woodward High School. I played against him in high school. And so there were some guys that played football. And then Michael Orr's stunt double was an old tackle for the Buffalo Bills, and he was huge.
Jeez.
And so he's out there against these little high school kids. He's towering. He's like 6'7", and the high school kids are like 5'11", 6 foot, just towering over them.
Yeah.
So it was pretty cool to see.
And the one thing is, kind of when Sandra Bullock did come in and pull the quarterback in, that wasn't you, right? That was not me, because they didn't want to get my mom upset and get me in trouble with the NCAA. So they didn't want to show my face in the movie. But I did all the under center scenes. I was saying ready, set, go, and stuff like that. But I only did it for one day because I was playing baseball throughout the summer, and so I didn't really have time to do it. But it was good to do it for one day. Yeah, it must have been an awesome experience. I mean, minus getting tackled a bunch of times.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, of course. Terrible.
I can only imagine. Was there ever any grief, or kind of, your buddies kind of giving you a hard time for your mom kind of ruining production and, quote unquote, taking your scene out?
Oh yeah. I mean, guys are going to be guys. I mean, they were just dogging me the whole time. They're like, "Sweet, hey, get your mom out of here, man. We're trying to make some money here." I was like, well, I can't help it. It was probably one of the most embarrassing moments I've had in a while, until I got to professional baseball. And I can tell that story if you want to hear it, but it's really funny. But that was one of my most embarrassing moments.
If you wouldn't mind sharing, I'm all ears.
So we were in Ogden, Utah, and I was catching a Sunday day game. And I think I had something to eat that was pretty bad. I don't know. I had an upset stomach going into the first inning. And in Ogden, we had our locker room. There was no bathroom in the dugout. So our locker room was down the third baseline in the outfield behind left field. And I was like in the first inning, I had an upset stomach. I told Barry Hill, I was like, listen, I got to go to the bathroom. He was like, all right, get your at bat and go. And so I swing at first pitch, line out. It's a good swing, hard out, and just sprint straight to the locker room. And so I'm in there, and I thought they had taken me out of the game. And our shortstop comes in, Brandon Trinkwine, and says, Farmer, waiting on you. And I was like, really? They're like, yeah, they're waiting on you. So I'm like, all right. And so I come out of the locker room, and I'm like entering the field at the left field line in the outfield. And all of a sudden I look at the pitcher's mound, and the pitcher's on the pitcher's mound waiting for me to come out there. I would start running down, the whole stand starts standing up, start clapping for me. The opposing team comes out of the dugout and starts clapping for me. I'm putting my gear on, and I squat behind home plate, and our announcer plays the flush noise over the loudspeaker. And I was like, oh, my gosh. And the umpire was like, man, you got some balls for doing that. And I was like, I thought they took me out of the game.
Yeah. How long of a delay was that?
It was like 10 minutes maybe. But, I thought they were like going to take me out. So
That's not terrible, though.
It was embarrassing.
Yeah.
Very
I can only
embarrassing.
imagine.
Yeah.
Kind of last thing, I guess, something we like to do is favorite quote, something you want to live by, something that impacted you. So.
Man, that's a good question. I've always liked, this is kind of cheesy, but the one from The Sandlot where he's with Babe Ruth, heroes are remembered, but legends never die.
Yep.
That's a great quote for me. And then the quote from, you always post it. The one, I actually reposted it. It was the one in Field of Dreams.
The James Earl Jones scene.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of my favorite scenes in any movie.
That's
one of my greatest ones.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of my favorite ones. But I also love the I'd known it for a while, but I just recently heard it, was if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life.
That's a good one.
And that's that's kind of what I live by right now. So just go out there, have fun, and see where it takes you.
All right. Well, Kyle, thanks so much for taking the time to join us today.
Thanks for having me. It was awesome.
Course. Yeah. Best of luck this season. You guys open up tomorrow against the Tigers, 6:00. So hopefully get on a hot start
hot start. Go Red Legs.
All right. Thank you so much again.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Have a good one.
You too.